Are you ready for a pixie book? Come on and listen in! With stories full of wonder, it's time now to begin. Hello there, everyone. Are you ready for a story? Wonderful. Oh, storybook, let's go. Today's story is called How Arthur Was Made King and Won His Kingdom. Once upon a time, there was a very old king who passed away without naming an heir to take over the throne. This meant that the kingdom didn't have a leader to guide the people and keep things running smoothly. There was constant fighting and war over who should be in charge because everyone wanted to be king. There was, however, one person who was respected by all, no matter how much they fought amongst themselves. Merlin, the wise wizard, was older than anyone could remember, with a white beard down to his knees and eyes that shone mysteriously. People had been complaining to him that a king must be chosen and peace restored. One morning, something strange appeared in the town square. It was a great big stone with the sword stuck in it. The bejeweled hilt of the sword shimmered in the sun. Most of the blade was deep in the stone, but what could be seen of it had these words etched on it: "Whoever pulleth this sword out of this stone is the rightful king." The news spread quickly around the kingdom. "Finally," the people said, "we will have a king and all this fighting can stop." Many people believed themselves to be worthy of ruling the kingdom and wanted to try pulling the sword from the stone. First, a hulking knight in shining armor strutted into the town square. His arm muscles were as big as tree trunks. "This will be easy," he said, and pulled on the sword. It didn't move. Embarrassed, he tried again with both hands, yanking until sweat dripped from his face, but still the sword didn't budge. A lady pushed him away, saying, "Oh, let me try." She grabbed the sword, but it didn't budge. Frustrated, she pulled harder and harder until her hand slipped and she fell backwards right onto her behind. Ouch! And so it went. Person after person tried to draw the sword from the stone, and not even one of them came close to succeeding. Some were angry, some were tired, and some were just plain confused, but they all gave up eventually. There the sword stayed as they continued to live without a king. On New Year's Day, Merlin arranged a big tournament to take place. Every villager joined in the competitions, or at least watched. Among them was Sir Ector and his sons Kay and Arthur. When Arthur was just a tiny baby, Merlin had taken him to Sir Ector, who was known for being a caring father. Merlin asked that he raise Arthur like his own son, promising Sir Ector that one day he would understand why. Sir Ector trusted wise Merlin and loved Arthur just as he did all of his children. As they rode their horses to the tournament, Kay suddenly cried out, "Oh no, I forgot my sword. I can't compete without it. Arthur, would you mind returning home to get it for me?" Arthur, happy to help his big brother, quickly rode back. But when he got home, he found himself locked out of the house because he'd forgotten his key. Oh no! As he passed back through town, he saw the sword in the stone. Since he was just a kid who loved to daydream, he hadn't been paying attention to all the fuss about it. All he knew was that he needed a sword for his brother. And so he jumped off his horse, grabbed the sword, and, easy as can be, pulled it from the stone. Thinking nothing of it, he raced to catch up with his family and gave it to Kay. Kay and Sir Ector could hardly speak when they saw little Arthur with the bejeweled sword. "Where did you get this?" asked Kay. I found it sticking out of a rock in town, Arthur shrugged. Sir Ector and Kay suddenly bowed down to Arthur, who was confused. Why are you bowing to me? Is this a joke? He asked. They told Arthur the news about the sword and what it meant. You're the new king, Sir Ector said. Let's tell Merlin at once. Forgetting about the tournament, they rushed to find the wizard in his library. Merlin, young Arthur is our new king, they cried. Strangely, Merlin was not surprised. He just smiled and stroked his long beard. But this can't be true, Arthur said. I'm too young to be a king. Surely among all the people living in the kingdom, there's someone better suited than I. Arthur, it's time you knew, Merlin answered. You are actually the son of the old king. When you were a baby, I sent you to Sir Ector so that no one would know you were heir to the throne and try to harm you. But now you're 16 and ready to take your rightful place as king. Arthur was dumbfounded. But Ector is my father, he said, and Kay is my big brother. Sir Ector said, You will always be my son, and Kay will always be your brother. That will never change. But what Merlin says is true. You are related to the late king. The sword in the stone proves it. When the announcement was made that this ordinary boy was to be king, there was a gigantic uproar. We don't believe this young boy is meant to be king. It's just a trick, they cried. We demand proof. Ah, as you wish, Merlin said. Arthur put the sword back into the stone and then pulled it out again easily. However, the people were not convinced and wanted to try again themselves. The same people as last time came forward. Sweating and grunting, they pulled at the sword, but it stuck fast in the stone. When they fell down exhausted, Merlin declared, Now you can see that Arthur is the rightful king. Arthur approached the stone and again easily removed the sword. A cheer broke out among the crowd. All hail King Arthur! All hail King Arthur! However, there were those who didn't think this could be so. He isn't a mighty fighter like I am, one said. Look how little he is. Oh, he isn't as clever as me, said another. He's too young to be a fair ruler. He certainly doesn't look royal, said another. He can't rule the kingdom wearing those rags. Soon the people of the kingdom split into two camps. One felt Arthur should not be king. The other supported Arthur. The battle that erupted between them would go down in history. Using swords, shields, horses, and any weapons they could find, the revolting army launched a vicious attack against Arthur and his supporters. However, Arthur was clever and fair and knew how to outsmart them. His army won the battle, and he turned out to be a smart, strong leader after all. And that is how young Arthur got to be king. Many adventures awaited him after that, but those are stories for another time. The end. Ah, such a classic tale. Oh, I'm so excited to share more stories with you. See you soon. Oh, I like this story. If you did too, click on the thumbs up. Hello, children. Are you ready for a story? Oh, wonderful, because I'm ready to share one with you. Oh, and here's the storybook. Ah, is everyone comfortable? Okay, let's begin. Today's story is called Pinocchio. There once was a kind woodcarver named Geppetto. He made toys for all the children in his village. However, sometimes he felt sad because he had no child of his own. Then, one day, he had an idea. I'll carve a puppet out of wood in the shape of a boy." And so he did, and named him Pinocchio. Before going to bed one night, he noticed a bright star in the dark sky. Gazing at it, he made a wish that he would have a real son. As he slept, a blue fairy flew into his house. She tapped Pinocchio with her magic wand and whispered, "Now, you can walk and talk, but if you want to be a real boy, you must always be honest and brave. And if you ever tell a lie, your nose will grow. To help you be a good boy, here is a cricket friend for you. Now, I must go, but if you ever need help, just call for the blue fairy." The next morning, Geppetto woke to find Pinocchio playing chase with the cricket. "Oh, you can walk," he said. "And I can talk," Pinocchio answered. Soon after, Pinocchio said to him, "I want to go to school like other children." Geppetto agreed, but he didn't have money for books or a backpack to carry them. So he sold his coat to buy them, and he filled the backpack with lots of wooden toys for Pinocchio to share with the children. The next morning, Pinocchio put the cricket on his shoulder and left for school. On the way, he met a fox and a cat. "Where you going?" the fox asked. "I'm going to school," answered Pinocchio. "Wouldn't you rather come with us to a party?" the fox said. "There will be games and presents for everyone." "Well, you can go to school tomorrow," the cat added. The cricket cried, No, don't listen to them. Go to school." But Pinocchio ignored him and followed the fox and cat down a dark, narrow street. From out of nowhere, someone grabbed his backpack and ran away. All his books and toys were gone. When he returned home, Geppetto asked, "Where are your books?" I left them at school," he answered. Suddenly, his nose started to grow. "Well, what about the backpack and the toys I made?" I gave them all away," he said, and his nose grew even longer. The cricket said, "Tell them the truth. Be brave, like a real boy." So Pinocchio told Geppetto the truth, and his nose returned to normal. "I'm so glad you weren't hurt," Geppetto said, "and thank you for being honest." The next day, Pinocchio and the cricket left for school. When they were almost there, a colorful bus playing music drove up to them. "Hop on for a ride to the Seaside Amusement Park," a clown called. "Lots of free candy and ice cream and games for everyone." "Don't get on," warned the cricket. "You need to go to school. Remember what happened yesterday?" "But there are free candies and ice cream and fun games," Pinocchio said, and jumped on the bus. When they arrived, he noticed something very strange. There were donkeys everywhere and only a few children. Luckily, there was candy and ice cream, and Pinocchio started to eat his fill. "Oh, this is the best," he started to say, but his voice cracked. Then he started to bray like a donkey. "Ee-aw, ee-aw." The cricket watched in fear as his ears started to grow long, first one, then the other. Then his legs and arms shot out. Soon he was walking around on 4 legs, not 2. Now Pinocchio was scared. Luckily, he remembered the words of the blue fairy. He could call her if he ever needed help. So he called, "Ee-aw." Pinocchio started to panic. His eyes opened. He called again, "Ee-aw." But his voice no longer worked. So he sat down, closed his eyes, and called out to her with his heart. Just then, she magically appeared by his side. Because she could tell he was truly sorry for his mistake, she tapped him with her magic wand. And just like that, he was a wooden puppet again, who could walk and talk. With a sigh of relief, the cricket jumped on his shoulder. Just then, a man appeared to harness the donkeys. He saw Pinocchio and picked him up. "What's this wooden junk?" he said, and threw him out into the sea. Pinocchio and the cricket bobbed on the water far away from the shore. Then a strong wind picked up and blew them right into the belly of a passing whale. Pinocchio started to cry. "Oh, what have I done?" Then they heard a voice. "Don't cry, little one," it said. "Come here, and I'll take care of you." Pinocchio followed the voice, then cried with delight, "Papa, it's you!" Geppetto couldn't believe his eyes. "My boy, I was looking for you everywhere. I even took a boat to search the sea and was swallowed up by this whale."
"No, we're so lucky to have found each other," said Pinocchio. "Now, let's go home."
Geppetto's joy vanished. "We can't. I've tried everything, and yet here I am."
Pinocchio thought for a moment. "I have an idea. My nose grows when I tell a lie. So I'm going to tell a whole bunch of lies to get us out of here."
Geppetto and the cricket looked very confused.
Pinocchio thought for a moment and then said, "I love being stuck in a whale." And his nose grew. "It was fun being a donkey."
His nose grew even more. Soon it was poking the side of the whale, who started to squirm this way and that until it spit them out into the sea.
"It worked," said the cricket.
"But we're still far from shore," said Geppetto.
Pinocchio's eyes lit up. "I'm a wooden puppet. I float in the water. Why don't I stretch out like a raft? That way you can sit on me and paddle us in."
"But it's so far," said Geppetto. "Why, you'll be too tired."
"I would do anything for you," said Pinocchio. "You made me. You sold your coat to buy me books. If you can be so caring, so can I."
Pinocchio's plan worked. Soon they reached the shore and lay on the sand to rest. After a while, the crickets started to laugh.
Look! Look! Pinocchio's changed!"
The wood became flesh. His wooden eyes became real. His arms, his legs, his face, even his nose, all became real.
"He's a real boy now," said the cricket.
And sure enough, he was. Geppetto took him in his arms and hugged him with all his might. "My son, honest and brave, my wish has finally come true." The end. Ah, what an adventure! I hope you enjoyed learning how important it is to be honest, brave, and kind-hearted. See you next time! If you have a story you'd like to hear, then comment below, and I'll ask Storybook if he knows it. Hello, children! Hello, Storybook! It appears as if you came flying in on a breeze. Oh, and wouldn't you know it, our story is called The Lad Who Went to the North Wind. Once upon a time, there was a poor old lady who had a son named Lad. Lad means boy, and Lad was a boy, so that's why she named the lad Lad. One day, they were both very hungry, and the old lady sent Lad out to the barn for a bag of flour so she could bake some bread. But when Lad came out of the barn, suddenly the north wind arrived. The north wind loves to play tricks, so he huffed and puffed and blew the flour out of Lad's hands up into the sky. Lad went back into the barn and came out with another bag of flour. Again, the north wind blew it into the sky. That made Lad very mad. So he decided to go to the north wind's house, which was far off in the north. At the north wind's house, Lad cried out, "Hey, north wind! My name's Lad, and I'm very mad. You stole my flour with your windy power. I want it back. Me and my mommy are very hungry." I have no flour, said the North Wind, but I can give you a magic tablecloth. Put the cloth on a table and say, "Cloth, feed me." Then the cloth will magically produce all the foods you could ever desire.
Wow, said Lad. That sounds like the best tablecloth ever. Forget about the flour. I'll just take the tablecloth.
Deal,
said the North Wind. Lad took the cloth and started towards home. It was a long walk, so he stopped at an inn for the night. When he went to the dining room for supper, he put the cloth on a table and said, "Cloth, feed me." Magically, the table was filled with delicious dishes. Everyone there was very impressed, especially the innkeeper. That night, when Lad was asleep, the innkeeper crept into his room and stole the magic tablecloth, replacing it with another cloth that looked just like it. The next day, Lad went home to his mother and said, "Mummy, I went to the North Wind's house, and he isn't a bad guy after all. He gave me a magic tablecloth that will provide all the food we'll ever need." The old lady sighed and said, "Oh, a magic tablecloth, huh? Okay, Lad, this I have to see." So, Lad put the cloth on the table and cried, "Cloth, feed me." But nothing happened. "Cloth, feed me, and my mummy," he cried. "We're very hungry." But no food appeared. Now, Lad was extra mad. So, he marched back to the North Wind's house. "Hey, North Wind, it's me, Lad, and I'm extra mad," he cried. "That was the worst tablecloth ever. It wasn't magic at all. So, give me my flour, and I'll be on my way."
"I have no flour, Lad," said the North Wind. "But if you look around back, you'll find a magic ram that can produce 100 gold coins. All you do is say, 'Ram, ram, ram-a-lam-a-ding-dong. Show me the money.' Then the gold coins come pouring out."
"Wow," said Lad. "That sounds like the best ram ever. Forget about the flour. I'll just take the ram."
"Deal,"
said the North Wind. Lad took the ram and started home. Again, he stopped at the inn for the night. Before sleeping, Lad tested the ram. "Ram, ram, ram-a-lam-a-ding-dong, show me the money," he cried, and the ram magically produced 100 gold coins. Lad happily hid the coins under the bed and fell fast asleep. The innkeeper had watched Lad and the ram through a hole in the wall. Again, he crept into Lad's room, stole the coins from under the bed and the magic ram too, replacing it with a ram that looked just like it. In the morning, Lad was so excited to go home. He forgot all about the gold coins under the bed. When he got home, he said, "Mummy, the North Wind is a really great guy. He gave me this ram that can magically produce 100 gold coins." The old lady sighed and said, "A magic ram, huh? Okay, Lad, this I have to see." Lad cried, "Ram, ram, ram-a-lam-a-ding-dong, show me the money. Produce the gold coins. We need money. Ram, come on, ram." But the ram produced nothing. Now, Lad was especially mad. So, he went to the North Wind's house and cried, "Hey, North Wind, it's me, Lad, and I'm especially mad. That was the worst ram ever. Well, it wasn't magic at all. So, give me back my flour, and I'll be on my way."
"I have no flour, Lad," said the North Wind, "but I'll give you a magic stick. When you're threatened by an enemy, just say, 'Stick, stick, tickle, stick, tickle till it makes him sick.' The stick will tickle your enemy until he's sick from laughing. To stop it, you just say, 'Stop, stick,' And that's it.
Wow, said Lad. That sounds like the best stick ever. Forget about the flower. I'll just take the stick.
Deal, said the North Wind.
Lad headed home, stopping again at the inn. However, by now, Lad realized he couldn't trust the innkeeper. So, when he crept into Lad's room to steal the stick, Lad jumped up and cried, "Stick, stick, tickle, stick, tickle till it makes him sick."
And the magic stick tickled the innkeeper until he was sick from laughing, and he promised to return the tablecloth and the ram.
Lad cried, "Stop, stick!" The tickling stopped, and the innkeeper collapsed.
The next morning, Lad started happily home with the magic tablecloth, magic ram, and magic stick.
"Mummy will be so proud of me," he said, knowing that from then on, she'd always have enough food and enough money. And every now and then, I'll tickle her with the stick just to give her a laugh.
The end. Oh, that was a very fine story indeed. See you next time. Bye-bye. You know, sharing is caring, so feel free to share our stories with your friends. Hello, children. Are you ready for a story? Wonderful, because I'm ready to share one. Here's the storybook. It looks like we're all ready, so let's begin. Today's story is called The Shoes of Fortune. It was a snowy New Year's Eve, and a large party had gathered in the town hall to celebrate. The grand room was decorated with balloons and streamers and lots of twinkling lights. Fragrant logs were crackling in the fireplace, and a full moon shone through the tall windows, casting soft shadows on the gleaming wood floor. The clock struck midnight. Everyone cheered and clapped, and some even kissed. Soon, two pretty servers appeared, carrying trays of glasses filled with bubbly champagne. The servers, one tall, one short, looked real enough in their black pants and white shirts. However, they were actually fairies in disguise. They walked over to a small group of people, a grandmother, her grown son, and his young daughter. They were talking about their hopes for the new year. The grandmother said, "I hope life becomes simpler. Things move too fast now. Everyone is rushing here and there, not enjoying life around them. As a painter, I want to have the time to really look at things, but that's not encouraged. Oh, yes, the past was definitely better for artists." The taller server looked at her coworker and winked. "I think it's time to bring out the shoes of fortune," she whispered to her coworker. When no one was looking, she gently placed them on a mat by the door. They shimmered and changed shape. Sometimes they were big, sometimes small. "They will fit anyone who wants to wear them," she giggled. "And watch what happens when people step into them. Their wishes will come true, and yet they won't necessarily be happy." As this was happening, the grandmother continued to talk. "Take that full moon," she said. "I could look at it through a window, or I could go outside for a better look." To make her point, she approached the door. Because it was snowy, she put on the boots that had been left on the mat. Luckily, they were just her size. Once outside, she gazed up at the moon and said, "Oh, I wish I lived 2 centuries ago." Suddenly, she was in a much different place. Gone were the balloons and streamers and warm firelight. Now she was in a cold, cramped room, holding her only paintbrush. It was dark, but there was no light to turn on. And she needed to wash her brush, but there was no tap to turn on. She went to the window and called out, "How do I turn on the lights? And where is the running water?" The people who heard her jeered and laughed. "In heaven, my lady! Now put down that brandy and go to bed!" She kicked her feet in frustration, causing her boots to fly off, which instantly broke the spell. She was back outside the town hall looking at the moon. "Oh my," she said, "what a strange experience. I must have moon fever. Time to go back inside where it's cozy and warm. Life's pretty good here after all." She returned with relief, passing the shoes of fortune, which were once again on the mat. When she joined her son and granddaughter, he was complaining about his job. "Oh, all I do is sit behind a desk, signing papers and doing business on the phone. I never see anyone. It's so boring. I envy the greengrocer I pass on my way to work. His life seems so much better. He's out in the fresh air, selling potatoes for French fries, apples for apple pie, lemons for lemonade, and he wears comfortable clothes and shoes. Oh, well, just like those," he said, pointing to the shoes on the mat. He ran over and put them on. "Oh, that would be the life. I wish I were a greengrocer." Just like that, he found himself in a dark room. An alarm clock went off. It was so early, but he had to get up and buy fruit and vegetables for his store. After driving across town to the food depot, he wondered what he should buy and how much. He guessed as best as he could and then had to load all the heavy boxes onto his truck. "Oh, my back, it hurts," he moaned. Then he had to unload everything at his store. When he opened it, a customer came in and asked for fresh figs, which he didn't have. She immediately began expressing her displeasure, when a couple of boys ran into the store and stole apples from the shelf. He chased after them but tripped, which caused his shoes to fly off, and the spell was broken. Once again, he was back at the party. "Goodness me," he said, "that champagne has gone to my head, but I'm lucky I can afford to celebrate with my family and sleep in tomorrow." "Could I have some of your champagne?" his daughter asked. No, you won't," said the father and grandmother together. "You're too old." The daughter frowned. "Kids don't get to do anything except for homework and walking the dog and making your bed and helping with the dishes. I think it would be better to live on the moon. That way I'd be far enough away to do whatever I want." Her father laughed. "And how will you get there exactly?" She looked around and saw a bouncy pair of running shoes on the mat. "I'll wear those," she said, and put them on, "and jump all the way there. I wish I was on the moon right now." And so her wish came true. But she quickly discovered that the moon was not a very friendly place. Rocky and dark. She looked around. There's nothing to do here, and no one to do it with. She looked towards the distant earth and realized that all her friends and family were there, so far away. It was so cold. She needed to find warmth, so she bounced along looking for shelter, going higher and higher until her shoes flew off her feet. Instantly, she returned to the party, and the shoes were back on the mat. She looked at her father and grandmother, so happy they were all together again. Then she said something no child has ever said before. "I think I stayed up too late. Well, I need to go to bed." As her father and grandmother laughed and hugged her, the tall server looked over at her co-worker and winked. "I believe our work here is done," she said. Then she carefully picked up the shoes of fortune and slipped them into a shimmery bag made of moonbeams. And there the shoes of fortune stayed until the next New Year's Eve party. The end. Oh, what a magical story! I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope all your wishes come true. Well, at least some of them. See you next time!
If you like our stories, don't forget to subscribe.
Hello, children! Hello, Storybook! Oh, today we have an especially hair-raising story for you. It's called Rapunzel. Once upon a time, there was an evil witch. She was a very lonely old witch, and so, to cure her loneliness, one day she did a terrible thing. She stole a beautiful baby girl and hid her away in a little room at the top of a high tower. The tower had no door for entry and no stairs to climb, and only a tiny window at the top. So the witch would fly up to the window on her old broomstick and care for the child. The little girl had the most beautiful yellow hair, which is why the witch noticed her in the first place. The witch named the child Rapunzel, after one of her favorite herbs. After many years in the tower, Rapunzel grew into a beautiful young woman, while the witch grew older and even more evil. Her broomstick became so old and crooked that she kept crashing into the tower instead of flying in through the window. Rapunzel had never cut her beautiful yellow hair, so now it was very long indeed, and the witch fashioned it into braids that could reach all the way from the tiny window to the bottom of the tower. Now, when the witch visited, she stood at the bottom and yelled out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair!" Rapunzel answered, "Surely, of course, I'll let down my hair if you tell me your name, if you say, 'Who goes there?'" And the witch yelled, "It's me! It's me! It's always just me! Well, who else could it be?" "Oh, it's you," said Rapunzel, and she threw down her long yellow braided hair for the witch to climb up. When she was alone, Rapunzel would sing to herself for hours and hours. One day, a young prince rode through the forest quite near the tower. His name was Prince Handsome Pants, because he was a prince and he wore very handsome pants. The rest of him was very handsome too, especially his face, which was especially handsome. When the prince heard the song, he stopped in his tracks. He was enchanted by the sweetness of the voice. He had to know who was up in that tower, singing with such a beautiful voice. But there was no door for entry or stairs to climb. So he hid in the forest near the tower and waited. Finally, as night fell, the old witch approached the tower and called out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair!" And you know how it goes from there. The very next day, when the witch was away, the prince stood at the tower and called, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair, because, it's me." And he pretended to be the witch. It's me." So when he climbed up Rapunzel's braided hair and appeared at the window, needless to say, Rapunzel was very surprised. But she calmed down when the prince handed her his princely ID card, which identified him as Prince Handsome Pants. "Oh, well, your pants are indeed very handsome," said Rapunzel, "as is the rest of you, especially your face, which is especially handsome." And she gave him a kiss, and he gave her one back. And, oh glory, they agreed to get married, which seems a bit fast, but it is a short story. "I do want to get married," said Rapunzel, "especially to you. But I'm trapped in this tower. Oh, what are we to do?" The prince said he'd think on it all through the night. He'd come back tomorrow, and then we'll take flight. But early next morning, before the prince could arrive, the witch came for a visit, to Rapunzel's surprise.
"Rapunzel,"
said the old witch,
"have you, my dearest, by any chance been seeing a very handsome prince with very handsome pants?"
the witch was holding the princely ID, which Rapunzel had sadly forgotten to hide. Rapunzel had never told a lie. Just this once, she'd give it a try. I don't think so," she said. The evil witch raised her hand in the air and, flick, sliced off Rapunzel's lovely, yellow, long hair. Then, before Rapunzel could even say, "Hey!" flick, the evil witch sent Rapunzel away.
laughed the witch with a cackle and a twitch. "You should have known, Rapunzel. I'm not one to betray. So I've sent you to the desert, and there you will stay."
Then the witch heard a voice from below. "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, throw down your hair." I think that's what I'm supposed to say. "Oh, and it's me, the prince, by the way." The witch tossed one end of the braid out the window and down to the ground. She held tight to the other end and stood there, not making a sound. Then finally, with a heave and a ho, Prince Handsome Pants appeared at the window. Hello. Hi, stammered the startled young prince. "I'm just, The witch smiled wickedly and said,
"Oh, I can see the surprise in your big, handsome eyes. But now, I'm afraid, the handsome prince dies."
And then she let him go. Down, down, down fell the poor handsome prince. He landed with a shriek, "Oh!" and a wince, in a big thorny bush on his big handsome tush. No, he wasn't quite dead, but the thorns scratched him all around his handsome head. Even with that, he didn't quite mind, but the thorns scratched his eyes, which left him quite blind. Day after day and night after night, the prince wandered the forest with no direction or sight. Until one night he stumbled out of the forest and climbed a high desert dune, and then slipped and fell, straight into the arms of Rapunzel, who was able to recognize him in the light of the smiling full moon. She covered his faces with kisses and tears, and the kisses and tears must have been somehow magical, because somehow magically his eyes were unsealed and his blindness was healed. Prince Handsome Pants could see again. He looked at the beautiful face of his beloved Rapunzel, and he smiled and he said, "Rapunzel, my fair, I just love what you've done with your hair." And they went off to his kingdom and lived handsomely and happily ever after. And as for the witch, well, her broom ran out of power, and with no way to climb down, she got stuck in the tower. The end. No, I just love when everything works out. Okay then, see you next time. Bye-bye.
If you would like to be a part of the PixieBook family, just subscribe to our channel.
Hello there, children. I hope you're all well and happy. Hello, Storybook. It's time to share a story. Oh, our story today is called Peter Rabbit. Once upon a time, there was a young rabbit named Peter. Peter was known to be quite the mischievous rabbit. Well, that means that he would do things he wasn't supposed to do, and oftentimes would get himself into trouble. Peter had 3 siblings named Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail. Every morning after breakfast, their mother would tell them, "Children, it's time to go outside to play." And every day, she would remind them not to go under any circumstances into Mr. McGregor's garden. She would say, "Don't go into Mr. McGregor's garden, because if you do, he will surely spray you with his water hose." The little rabbits loved the carrots and celery and salad leaves that grew in the garden, but they most definitely did not like to be sprayed with a water hose. Mopsy, Flopsy, and Cottontail listened to their mother and decided to play hide-and-seek nearby. They always listened to their mother, but for Peter, this morning was different. It was Peter's birthday, and on his birthday, he wanted to do whatever he wanted. Certainly, he could sneak into Mr. McGregor's garden for a little bit of yummy food on his birthday without getting caught, being the bright and resourceful little rabbit he thought himself to be. And so, as soon as he was outside, Peter quickly made his way to Mr. McGregor's garden before anyone would try to stop him. Mr. McGregor's garden was always full of the best fruits and vegetables a rabbit could ever ask for. Peter, when he arrived, snuck under the gate and began feasting on anything and everything he could find. Cucumbers, lettuce, and parsley, blueberries, melons, and figs, and, of course, his favorite of all, crunchy orange carrots. Peter was hopping around the garden carelessly, nibbling on this and sampling a bit of that, and was beginning to feel his stomach getting full. But he just couldn't stop eating. The food was the best he had ever tasted. Finally, Peter was about to take a big bite of a large orange carrot when he heard a low, raspy voice behind him. "Now, what do we have here?" the voice said. Peter turned around slowly to see who the voice belonged to. There, standing many feet taller than him, was old Mr. McGregor. "Aha! A little thief making a mess of my garden. Well, I know just what to do with you," Mr. McGregor said. Mr. McGregor reached down, grabbed his water hose, and pointed it at Peter's face. Peter jumped out of the way just in time and quickly ran over and hid himself in the lettuce leaves. "I can still see you, little bunny," Mr. McGregor roared, pulling his hose towards Peter. Peter knew he couldn't stay where he was, but he didn't know where to go. He couldn't see where the gate was from under the leaves. Peter saw Mr. McGregor's feet right before him and, overcoming his fear, quickly hopped past him to escape. He safely made it to the fence, but the gate was nowhere to be seen. Peter thought he would manage to burrow under the fence, but after only a few swipes, his tummy started hurting. He was so full. He needed to rest to calm his tummy, but he wasn't safe yet. Then he saw a small chipmunk gathering nuts on the other side of the fence. "Hello, could you help me, please? I'm lost and very scared. Where is the gate to the garden?" Peter asked the chipmunk. The chipmunk, whose mouth was full of nuts, pointed behind Peter. Peter Rabbit turned and saw the gate way on the other side of the garden. Standing right in the middle of the garden, blocking Peter's way, was old Mr. McGregor. Peter, with no other option and his full aching belly, took off. He zigzagged about the garden, hopping this way and that, desperately trying to make it to the other side as fast as possible. Trying with all his might to not get sprayed with Mr. McGregor's water hose. The gate got closer and closer, and Peter felt like he was almost home free. But just as he made it to the gate and hopped through, he felt a rush of cold water throw him to the ground. Peter was now on the safe side of the fence, which was good, but he was soaked in cold water, which was bad. Peter slowly hopped home, sad, shivering, and with a very sore stomach. When he finally got home and opened the door, his mother, along with Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail, were all waiting for him with balloons and hats and horns. "Happy birthday, Peter!" they all cried. "Look, Peter," Mother said, pointing at the table. "Oh, I've prepared your favorite supper. Sweet roasted carrots, mashed potatoes with hazelnut gravy, and for dessert, bumbleberry pie." But when she turned and saw Peter drenched and shivering, her smile turned into a frown. "Oh, dear me. You went to Mr. McGregor's garden, didn't you? Oh, Peter, how many times have I told you?" Peter suddenly sneezed. "Achoo!" And then he sneezed again. "Achoo!" And again. "Achoo! Okay, birthday boy, it's a hot bath, a spoon of cod liver oil, and straight to bed for you." Later, after his hot bath, Peter got into some warm pajamas. He was still shivering. His mother gave him the cod liver oil, ooh, yuck, and then tucked him into his bed. She then poured him some hot mint tea. The tea did manage to warm him up a bit and soothe his still aching belly. As he was slowly dozing off, he could hear his brothers munching away on his special birthday dinner. That night, Peter swore that he would never disobey his mother again. Achoo! The end. Oh, poor Peter. So remember, children, mothers really do know best. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Did you like this story? Oh, then let me know by clicking on the like button.